everyone. It's a little early, couple minutes early. This is the live show for July 22nd, 2020. A lot of twos there. July 22nd, 222020. And this is the Unfound Live Show. If you don't know what we do here, hello, Ms. Kat. Hello, Kathy. This is kind of a potpourri show. A little more laid back than the episodes, a little more laid back than the think tank that we have for the premium Patreon members on Sunday evenings. We kind of sometimes get away from true crime and missing persons cases, depending on the questions that you ask me. And I do have had a lot of, questions coming in very late recently within the last half hour. So, like I said, it's a little more laid back, and I get to talk to all of you who are tuning in, and you get to ask me questions and talk to me back and forth, and hopefully we'll have a nice audience here. And it is one of my favorite times of the week. Really is. But that's what we do here. If you are watching this for the first time, whether tuning in right now live or maybe catching this somewhere down the road, and you've chosen this live show to watch for the first time, this is what goes on. Like I said, the episodes, of course, tend to be a little serious most of the time. And the think tank is on Sunday evenings, which if you are not a premium Patreon member, maybe you should think about that. Patreon.com/Unfound Podcast, where we really get in depth for the disappearance for that week. But this is probably the exception to everything, I guess. We do it Unfound, but it's been like that since the beginning. Hello, Ms. Kat and Kathy, Jasmine, Susan, Laura, Anne, and Mimi. Valerie. Valerie says today was supposed to be the end of the world, as according to Lori and Chad Dable, and here we all are. I don't know. Maybe she got her dates wrong. Hello, Cherie. Patreon.com/Unfound Podcast. Thank you, Cherie. Hello, Indy. Hello, Jill, making a rare appearance. Carol, Angela, Miranda. A lot of women in here, as you can tell. That's fine by me. Fine by me. It's a pleasure to have all of you here. Got quite a few questions. We only had one question, but then I put out another request and got quite a few, 5 or 6, that I will cover during the course of tonight's show, which I'm guessing will go as long as the other ones have. It used to be when the live show got started, it was maybe an hour long, and now we're to an hour and 45 minutes. I just go until I'm done. I got a little itinerary over to my left, so I'll be looking over that direction. I do not come to this show without notes. That would be crazy. So let's get started. My week has been good. Actually, I've gotten to play disc golf over here at Taylor Park a couple times this week. In fact, I played this evening. I just got back about an hour ago and then jumped in the shower and shaved. And I'm going to be playing a one round tournament on Saturday morning there. The tee time is 9:50 a.m. I hope I can get out of bed. And in fact, a friend of mine texted me while I was out there this evening, and he wants to get together tomorrow morning to play again. So I'll be out there early at 10 a.m. Once again, we'll see if I can get up. And then I'll get my work done when I come back. Taylor Park is over in that direction, kind of to the southeast of me, and it's the closest disc golf course to where I live. Who else we got here? Susan, well, it was a crappy day, but not the end of the world. Okay, yes. Touching, good to see you. Watching out for alligators. Watch out for alligators. There are alligators over there, Laura, for sure. For sure. Taylor Park has a couple of them. Paula says, I'll be listening. I have to finish painting my pantry. Hate painting. Haven't had to do any painting in many, 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 many years, mainly because I rent. So that's always nice. I haven't painted years and years and years. I can remember maybe going back 30 years. I painted my aunt's sister's garage over in West Leechburg. Like I said, at least 30 years ago. Hello, Heather. Thank you for the wave. Gerald says, don't worry, I rent too. I know, I've been told that that's not the thing to do. It's not good it's just money down the drain and everything. But on the other hand, if you are a person who moves a lot and likes to move, and then it's actually, I think, a little bit more worthwhile, especially what I saw in Las Vegas, 2005, 2006, 7, 8, and everybody taking a bath with the housing and everything that happened back then. So it didn't affect me at all. There was some crazy lightning last night for the northwest of me out in the Gulf. And it was just crazy. None of it was like hitting into the water. It was all up in the clouds. And it wasn't like that bluish white lightning that I think we're used to. It was in the clouds, and it was like that tan, kind of brown, yellowish tan kind of lightning that just goes throughout the clouds and everything. It was really, really cool. It was really, really neat. And it was so far away that there was no thunder. All you could see was the lightning, which is what was also weird. As I was looking on my app on my phone at the radar, and there wasn't any rain or anything going on out there at all. It was just this lightning. It was really neat. And I have seen some pretty decent light shows since I moved into this place, looking out on the water. But it really has to be under particular circumstances to see, to really get a good light show. It's not automatic, just living right here near the beach and everything. It's not automatic. It has to be a particular type of storm blowing a certain way in the rain and everything. But I've seen some nice ones. Hello, Vegas. I'm doing good. Vegas, doing good. Everything's good. Just talked to my dad before I got on the air here, and he's doing good too. You're right about that, Gerald. Of course, I wouldn't know anything about being in the military, but I agree with you, Gerald. Hello, Joyce. What's going on, Joyce? Thank you, Touching. I've been listening for about 6 months. Well, welcome to Unfound. I guess you started about the beginning of the year. Thank you. All right. They call that heat lighting. They do. That's what they call it when me growing up in Pennsylvania, Gerald. So, yeah, heat lightning. Because like I said, on the radar, it didn't say that there was any rain out there at all. And it's weird. It's so far away that there's no thunder. It's just weird. So what else has been going on? I've been, being that they've kind of locked down things a little bit more here in Florida with masks and everything. I've been getting my groceries delivered. So yesterday was the third time that I've had them delivered. And like I'm saying, I may never go to the grocery store again, because that's just, I keep telling everybody, I'm pretty much a homebody. My dad's the exact opposite. He gets cabin fever. I get no cabin fever. And no matter, granted, I live in a pretty nice place now, but anywhere I've ever lived, it's always been like, you know what? I'm just comfortable here at home, and it's just the way I am, even before I started Unfound. So, like I said, I may never go to a grocery store again if I could just have everything delivered. And I feel good. I know there's a lot of people who have been laid off, lost their jobs and everything. And I feel good about paying somebody, with the service, whatever, Instacart or whatever it's called, to help somebody else out in this weird situation that we're going through that maybe looks like we'll be doing this for a while. Joyce says, we've had rain and thunder for 6 days. You know what? It's rained here, Joyce. It's been a little crazy. Earlier today, it was a little crazy. Storm blew through pretty crazy, but it got decent out. It was decent enough for me to go play for an hour and a half. So What's neat is, at least in this area, once the storm blows through, it's really calm. And although it was windy over there, but I've played over there. It's way windier than it was today, but it kind of calms everything down. It wasn't hot out at all. So it was really nice. Logan says, shout out to PA. I'm in Pittsburgh. Well, I really can't. I mean, I guess it's my home city. I really, of course, did not live in Pittsburgh. I lived in the Pittsburgh area. I grew up in Leechburg, Pennsylvania, which is about 45 minutes away going up Route 28. But I know that city well, Logan, and shout out to you. Valerie says, we got a day of rain in Vegas. No lightning as we went to the water park. Good times. Rain is so weird in Vegas. Of course, it doesn't happen very often. But are you talking about that water park, Valerie, that's kind of down there in where would that be? That would be the southwest area of Vegas, like, I don't know, Fort Apache. I don't know what it'd be. Down southwest of the 215. Look at me talking Vegas, man. Vegas streets and everything. Is that a water park that you went to, Valerie? I don't think that was built until after I left Vegas, but I used to live, Valerie. I lived from 2005 to 2008. I lived very close. I lived south of Rainbow on the 215. I lived at 7200 or 7800 South Rainbow Boulevard. There's an apartment complex there. That's when there was like hardly anything down there. And then while I was living there, it all kind of built up. But is that the water park you're talking about? There's, like I said, one way down there in the southwest part of town. And I can remember when I first moved there was nothing there. Crazy. All right, let's get into some things here. The poll for the disappearance of Jacob Paddock-Weeks. That was the disappearance. We covered this past Friday. Of course, his father, George, and his stepmother, Amanda, were the guests. And the poll question was Jacob driving his truck the day that it wrecked? Of course, did talk about an alternate scenario in which maybe possibly somebody else was driving his truck. A large majority of you believed that Jacob was driving the truck. I did leave the option of maybe. Nobody picked no. There were a few people who picked maybe, but I think that we're on pretty secure ground in believing that Jacob was driving, even though the phones were left there, his wallet was left there. It still makes a lot of sense. It's certainly nothing. I guess it's somewhat circumstantial. But I think that that's the best choice right now. And some of you I know are Patreon members, even if you're not at the premium level. Maybe you're contributing at $2 or $5 a month. That was an interesting blog this week regarding Jacob's disappearance, because first of all, I got to talk about what we might call incomplete disappearances, in which things that should be done haven't been done. And that is not a criticism of the Weeks family or anyone in particular, maybe law enforcement. But the tough part about covering a disappearance like Jacob's is that everybody readily admits that no searches have been done in the area. And there are a lot of reasons why that is. The time of year that it happened, the terrain, the temperature of the weather, on and on and on. It's very rough terrain, the mountains, the forest. Who knows what you're going to get into? I'm sure there's maybe some wild animals and maybe mountain lions and bears. I don't know, but just not the easiest place to search. And then it's a very wide open area where it's, when I was doing that map, 2 miles by 2 miles, and you have to go up mountains like this. But until that area is searched, like I said, it's somewhat of a little bit of an incomplete disappearance, because I don't want Jacob to be there. I hope that Jacob ran away from that wreck, and I hope that he's out there somewhere. Maybe he's homeless. Maybe he did have some sort of head injury that gave him amnesia. I hope all of that. I surely hope that he is alive. But until that area is searched, a good search is done, at least give it a shot. I just don't know what to think. And the tough part is they could go over that area all to the east of where the wreck happened and not find anything, and it still be very much up in the air. So I wrote about that in the blog, and I also wrote about eyewitnesses. And in the issue of disappearances, there's two types of eyewitnesses. The people who see somebody go missing, for example, in Jacob's disappearance, where this witness saw the wreck and saw someone, presumably Jacob, run away. And then you have those eyewitnesses who see the missing person after what we would call the accepted disappearance date. And I got to write about those two groups during the course of the blog as well. It went 33 or 3,400 words. And I always, once again, I love analyzing the real details of a particular disappearance, but I also love some of the theory behind it and the mindset, and hearing what eyewitnesses have to say and whether we believe them or not. Why do we believe them? Why maybe we shouldn't believe them? I love talking about that stuff and writing about it. So I hope you got to check that out. Once again, patreon.com/Unfound Podcast. Probably this would be a good time if you are watching the video right now. Please give this video the thumbs up. If you would please do that. I've done some directions. There's a video on how to do that I filmed maybe a month ago or even longer than that. And that helps this video appear for any searches that people do for true crime videos and maybe some of the other topics that we're going to get into during the show tonight. Because after I'm done, Natasha will tag this video with any topics that are covered, so things are in the news. And then that combined with everybody liking this video makes it more possible or much more probable that people who going to YouTube during a search that this video will pop up. I would appreciate if you could do that. Valerie says, no, we went to Cowabunga Bay in Henderson. It's way better. I don't know where that is, Valerie, and I'm not familiar with it. Where is it in Henderson? I know Henderson fairly well. Of course, Sunset Station and down in that area where the 215 meets the 95. All those routes coming, all those streets and routes. You don't know, Valerie, how much time I've spent, how many times I went to the movies at Sunset Station way back in the day when I lived at East Tropicana in Mountain Vista, like 15 years ago, over 15 years ago, how many times I went to the movies there. So many stories, so much stuff. Great town, Henderson. So I'm not sure I know where that is though. Valerie, once again, that must've been something that was built after I left. Logan says, shut up. My mom graduated from Leechburg in 1976. And you in 09. I always say Pittsburgh because nobody ever knows Leechburg. Oh my gosh. Another Leechburg graduate in watching this video tonight. That is crazy. Now, everybody has to understand that Leechburg, my hometown, where I was raised and where I lived, except for my 4 years at Grove City College. I lived there until 1998, until I moved to Las Vegas. I'm technically from Gilpin Township. I grew up, my house was at the corner of 66 and Godfrey Road, right across from the old Gilpin Township Elementary School, which isn't there anymore. And Leechburg is such a small town. When I graduated, there were 71 students in my class. I think the classes are no bigger than that now, maybe even smaller. So to have somebody else watching this video, who I don't know, Logan, is certainly something. Graduated in 76. My cousin Pam Logan graduated in 77. My cousin Pam. And a woman I dated for a while graduated in 76. And I think that a guy I know, used to, I haven't talked to him for years, but Jimmy Morandini graduated in 1976. Look at us. Everybody's else like, what the heck is Ed talking about? So let me see if any of those, if your mom graduated that year, maybe I've even heard of your mother, Logan. So there could be that. Leechburg, very small place. Okay. That's crazy. Joyce, the elements might have been involved since it was a rough terrain. True. Hello, Alexis. Good to see you. Got a question from you, I think, Alexis. Valerie, it's on Galleria Drive. Yeah, Sunset is fun. Galleria, I know where that is. Sheree says you dated a woman that graduated in 76. I know somebody was going to say that. I knew, I think she graduated in, or maybe my cousin Pam graduated in 78 and Janie graduated in 77. That might be more likely the situation. Yeah, Sheree, I did. I dated a woman who was like 11 years older than I was. Yes, I did. There you go. Now you know some of my secrets. All right, let's go to a question. See, like I said, for anybody tuning into the live show for the first time, it's a little more laid back than what we do during the episodes. It's just the way it is. Gerald, who is in here, he gets his question answered first. I got one for you, Ed. What has been the most difficult case for you to understand? Gerald, I don't like to put superlatives on disappearances. I don't like putting others in front of others, the strangest, the most peculiar. I don't do that. I will say that the toughest ones from an analysis point of view are the ones where there are no suspects. I don't think I could do this program for the next 30 years. And I think that's always going to be the situation where you have a disappearance and you kind of just shrug your shoulders that I just don't know what happened. Maybe some of those disappearances might be like Jason Jolkowski walking to for somebody to pick him up, just disappeared. That's one that always comes to my mind. That doesn't mean all the other ones that we've covered aren't as important. They're all important. But like I said, from an analysis point of view, when you have anybody, I'll just be honest, anybody who doesn't have any enemies and doesn't have any addictions and doesn't have a felony record and all the things that a lot of times play a part, isn't in a turbulent relationship, doesn't have an abusive husband, and you take all those things away and still these people still disappear, those are tough. Once again, that's just one that comes to mind. Maybe a Regina Marie Boss. I mean, we're going way back to 2016. I'm sure some of you might think of some other disappearances where there doesn't seem to be any suspects or any suspicious people around the person who disappeared. I mean, we've done 175 disappearances now, so there are certainly others. I mean, even someone like Esther Westenbarger, which was certainly a mystery, and we now know what happened. Even in her disappearance, I think there was a good reason to look at her brother, and that's, kind of what I talked about. Even when I wrote about in that book, it doesn't look like that was true, but at least in that one, you're looking maybe it's something else. I don't know if anybody could have predicted that she drove into that retention pond like she did. So, Gerald, those are always going to be the tough ones. And from an analysis point of view. So I hope that answers your question. So those are the toughest ones to analyze. So I guess those would be the toughest ones to understand, but I don't like putting them, what's the most mysterious one? What's the most interesting one or anything? I look at them all from an analysis point of view, because from analysis, we learn things that we can then apply to other disappearances. But when you have those disappearances where it's just a huge, big question mark, Joshua Guimond, then I don't know what you can learn from it. And that means that, at least for right now, those disappearances can't be used in analyzing other disappearances because everything's up in the air. So, I will admit that most of the disappearances that we cover do have suspects. That doesn't mean that any particular one caused the disappearance. It could be something totally different. It absolutely could. But at least in those ones, being that there are people, you can kind of look at it and maybe build up a circumstantial case. But when you have a situation where, just to use Jason Jolkowski's as an example, a kid who seems to be living his life right, 19 years old, just working from a good home, just walks into oblivion, I just don't know what you can do with that. And I have my own theories on that, but really, and I'm not going to, and I have my own theories on that, but really, and I'm not going to get into them tonight, but it's just through process of elimination that I've come to a theory, but it could be something totally different. Absolutely, totally different. So I hope that answers your question, Gerald. Yeah, that totally answers my question. It was a general question, not specific per se. Thank you for asking, Gerald. LaFord says, you have a maturity about you, Ed, to date older women. Well, if everybody wants to know, as you know, I am a single guy. I've never been married. I don't have any kids, but I've dated 1, 2, 3, 4 women who are older than I am at various points of my life. 4. And actually, the longest relationship I was ever in was with a woman older than myself. So I don't know why that is. And I've dated ones younger too. Not a lot younger, but some that were older. And Shuri, yes, you dated a woman that graduated in 76. I think she graduated, now that I think about it, in 77. And my cousin Pam graduated in 78. I think I got those graduations. So Janie was 11 years. She was also born in August, like I am. And so she was about 11 years older than I am. Yes. Yeah. Let's move on. Erika Lloyd. Last Friday night, and I want to thank Gerald for letting me know about Erika's disappearance, and I had a chance to do an Unfound Now episode on it. I hope you all found it interesting, informative, just to give my analysis of a very new disappearance within the last month. The tough part about analyzing newer disappearances, even if it's just for a half hour, is that even a month in, some of the details are, I write down here, sketchy. I maybe the word I should have written was inconsistent, because you have certain stories, articles in the news that say she talked to her family on that Monday morning. And then there are other ones that say, no, she talked to them the day before, which would have been Sunday, I think the 14th. And then some others said she talked to her family on the 15th, which would have been that Monday. How do you square something like that? I just went with the idea that she did talk to them on Monday morning. I don't know if that was the right choice to make or not. So Heather says Eric's case was the one I wanted you to do first. Well, I guess you eventually got your wish, Heather. Good things come to those who wait. But so it's tough because, and this just shows you, I think, why we do have the principle, the rule at Unfound that that we will not look at a case really in depth until a year has passed, because by that time, a lot of these things can get ironed out. When did she talk last to her family? Do we have phone records yet? Are there searches that have been done? Things that will pop up. And I'm sure, and I hope Erika Lloyd is found tonight, at the latest tomorrow. I hope that. I hope she's found alive. Who knows what the circumstances were, but I hope that is the situation. But if she isn't, and it goes another month and 6 months, I hope it doesn't. It's horrible. But if it gets to a year, here's what I think I know. A year into this, if it gets to next summer, then we're going to know a lot more just about the general facts then than we do now. And a lot of these things that are inconsistent, and I think that they will get ironed out, and then better coverage can be done. This is one of the reasons that, once again, we at Unfound, we wait for a year before we will look at a disappearance. One of the reasons, not the only reason, one of the reasons. But I do those Unfound Nows. Yeah, Unfound Nows. 2 of them now, of course, to inform the public. It's a good public service announcement about this disappearance. But I also do it mainly for an educational tool. Because I certainly believe, and my assistants believe, if the public can get better at analyzing disappearances and not just read them and then move on, and get better at reading between the lines, you might say, that's going to help everybody. And that's what I'm trying to do with these disappearances, trying to get people to learn how to read between the lines and maybe come to some decent conclusions, even though it's not specifically written in those articles. So that's what I'm trying to do with Unfound now. And I did get a message from someone in Erika's family, and she thanked me for the coverage, and I'm happy to do it. I'm not saying I got every particular fact right. Once again, there were some inconsistencies out there, but I think the analysis regarding her being off her phone for quite a while, and the very small window as to when her car could have been vandalized, and those things, and some other the topics that I talked about, I think I certainly came very close to 100% accurate on those. Pretty sure. Gerald says her aunt messaged me and said it was a good analysis. I'm happy to do it. And if there's anything I can do for her family, any insights or anything, I'm happy to talk to them. Kathy says, I don't know why anyone would want to go to Joshua Tree National Park in July. Super hot. Huge difference between Joshua Tree and Big Sur. Big Sur is gorgeous. I've never been to Big Sur, but as I stated on the Unfound Now episode, I've been through 29 Palms. I was through there. It was in 1999. Must have been April. It was after I quit 7-Eleven, but I think before. No. Yeah, I think so. Must have been Steve Davis, who I went down to see, who was a good friend of mine from college, who ended up being a Marine on the base, would probably remember it. But I think it had to have been like April 1999 is when I went down there. And it's, like I said, as far as the 48 states go, pretty desolate area. I mean, you do not want to break down. You do not want to break down. My mother's maiden name is Kim Zelfrau. My aunt lives in Gilpin still to this day. We lived in West Leechburg. My brother went to Gilpin Elementary. Huh. That's interesting, Logan. I don't recognize your mother's maiden name. Okay. Leechburg's a small town, but I don't recognize that. Your aunt lives in Gilpin. I'd love to know where. And still to this day, I'd love to know where in Gilpin that she lived. Like I said, I lived right at the corner of Route 66 and Godfrey Road. And not the Route 66, the one that everybody knows about that goes across the United States. Totally different road. And lived in West Leechburg. My best friends are from West Leechburg, Logan. In fact, one of them now lives there up on, I guess you would say, up on the hill that looks over Leechburg. That's where he lives now. And your brother, you graduated Leechburg, and you must have a brother that's way older than you, Logan, because Gilpin Elementary hasn't been open since about 1995, 94, 93, somewhere in there, something like that. It's been a while. So maybe you need to explain that a little bit. I love talking Leechburg stuff, even though my dad doesn't even live there now. He lives over in Butler. So I really don't get to Leechburg much when I go to Pennsylvania these days. Gerald says, I was in 29 Palms in 2016. You're not missing much. Yeah, I know. Just a lot of palms down there. Okay, so that was the Unfound Now. I don't know when the next one will come out. Like I said, after the first one that we did for Linda Stoltfus, who of course is still missing, there is a young man who is in custody for her disappearance. But I don't know when the next Unfound Now is going to be. I don't know when it's going to occur. But now that you have a couple of them, I think you're getting a flavor for them. And I think, though, I'm still working on my comfort level doing them. This one was a little shorter, down to 33 minutes. I would like to get it closer to 25 minutes. We'll see. But I think I'm still working on my comfort level of doing them. But I certainly enjoy doing them, just doing my part. Let's move on to another question. Amanda, you seem to be so good, and I don't know if she's in here tonight. You seem to be so good at staying neutral and to the facts. Which case took you there? Like, just really upset you? They all upset me, Amanda. But as far as the staying neutral part and the facts, I write about my opinions on the blog, on Patreon. But I'm going to be honest with you. My attitude is that if we're going to talk about something publicly, like between myself and all of you, then we talk about it honestly. If I can't reveal everything, I'll tell you. But regarding theories and things, the reason I write about theories at Patreon is because people are willing to pay to see them. People find them interesting. Okay, so I'll do it. I don't know if I would do it otherwise. I do talk theories behind the scenes with the guests because it's a good way to brainstorm ideas. Well, what if this happened? Well, what if that happened? Well, then that means that this happened and everything. But as I have said many times, it's hard to find new information. It's easy to come up with theories. And as I've explained many times, my big problem with media, all media, I'm not picking, I know it's an election year and everything, but all media, entertainment, sports, politics, nature, history, everything else, is that there's too much opinion and not enough information gathering. Anybody can form opinions. Anybody. It actually takes work to find new information. And I think the problem we have is the people who are getting paid the most in everything are people who just offer opinions. Well, what happens then is nobody wants to gather facts because the big bucks are forming opinions. We can't form opinions if you don't have information. Information comes first, theories come second. And that's why we have so many people who are in the theory business instead of the information collection business. But so we're just trying to go through, get more information. That's all we're trying to do, Amanda, with the episodes. When I ask the questions, and our goal is always to, once Unfound has covered the disappearance, then there isn't anything else to say. That's always the goal. I'm not saying that we always reach that goal, that we always reach it, but that is the goal. We will go over the intricacies and all of those things that went on in the disappearance. But the other reason we don't talk about theories is because I want all of you to have independent minds. give you the information. You can form your opinions for yourselves. And it could be one of those opinions that leads to even more information. Whereas I personally believe that when I publicly voice my theories, unfortunately, people then start saying, well, if Ed thinks this, then that's probably right. And they start gravitating toward me. And I don't want that. I'm perfectly fine with everybody disagreeing with me. So that's the way we do things at Unfound. Thank you for the question, Amanda. But can't answer the part about what case took you there, like really upset you. They all upset me. So Kathy says, really enjoy the Unfound now. Thank you, Kathy. Gerald, State College, PA has been a magnet for quite a few disappearances. Ray Greekar, of course, is one that everybody that comes to everybody's mind. Gerald, for sure. Let's move on. I don't know if Shree's going to mind me saying this, but Shree over the last couple days has been been paying very close attention to these three murders that happened not too far east of me in what I would call Lakeland, Florida, and Polk County, I think it is. That's a county that I have to drive through. If I'm going to Orlando, like to Disney, going from Tampa to Orlando, it's a county that I drive through. And these three men who were murdered, and everybody's wondering what happened. Well, today, Sheree says I failed. Well, it's a very new story, Sheree. You're allowed to. Of course, there were, things going behind the scenes that the public didn't know about. But a lot of different between Sheree, of course, following it very closely, telling me some of the things that she was finding and everything. I think we now know that, first of all, we have to establish none of these guys were fine, upstanding individuals. That doesn't mean they should have been murdered. Of course, it doesn't mean that. But when you find out about these people, it certainly opens itself to a whole wide range of possibilities. Allegedly, one of these murdered men was dating a married woman, and then some of them had charges for meth production, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Of course, that brings in a whole host of different things. But what do you know? It seems that these murders were all over, what was it, Sheree? A truck that they sold to the murderers that they didn't like. There was a bad engine or something. And these two guys and this girl decided to get revenge. Now, of course, I've not been following it very, very closely. I only know really what Sheree has been telling me. But it would be interesting to know how they knew that these guys were going to be going fishing that morning. Was it some kind of setup? So maybe, Sheree, you know some of that information. So feel free to type it there in the comments section, the live chat, for at least for a second. But I was thinking, I hearkened back to those murders that happened in Ohio a few years ago, where a couple different families had been murdered, like 9 people, 7 people. Remember that? And they were in the marijuana growing business. And that went unsolved. There was this rumor that some Mexican gang went up there and assassinated all of them, killed all of them because of some bad drug deal. And what ends up happening, that it seems that it was over a relationship. And they finally did charge. I don't know if that's going to trial yet, but 4 people, I think 2 adults and 2 children, were charged with the murders of all of these people. But those murders went unsolved, 5 years or something? I mean, you would think that something like that would get solved fairly quickly. There would probably be a lot of evidence with guns and ballistics tests. And it went unsolved for probably, I think, a lot longer than people thought it would. But that's what I thought of when I thought of these 3 guys. Maybe they did get wrapped up in something. Maybe it was a drug deal gone bad, but it doesn't seem like that now. Let's see what Sheree has to say about that. Well, let's read all these things. Yes, I was so excited to see they found them here in DeBary, Florida. Mandy in DeBary, Florida resident. Jill, what's your thoughts on Unsolved Mysteries? Have not watched it yet, Jill. Heather, I'm impressed with the Polk County Sheriff. They got it done. Gerald, if I ever go missing, it was foul play. All right, we'll remember that, Gerald. Valerie agrees with Heather. Heather, the murderer said he sold an engine that belonged to him. Sheriff Judd doesn't play. I guess not. Cherie said, I thought it was a girl, but it ended up being a missing engine. That was the cause. Mandy says there was a receipt from a Dollar General found at the crime scene. I did read about that. Yes, they saw them in the Dollar General. Alexis, wow, all over a missing truck. Just heard about this story this morning. I figured it wasn't a random act, but wow. Heather says one was at the dollar store at 10 minutes before the help call to the dad. Valley Cherie, I thought that too. Just happy they caught them. Mandy, so they went to the surveillance video and they were behind one of the deceased guys in line in front of them talking about going fishing. So that's how they knew about it. Okay. Heather, the murdered overheard the kid say Kevin was going fishing with him. So that's how they knew. Okay, great. Everybody's following this. This is all news to me. Cherie found the receipt in one of the deceased trucks, went back and saw the guys were there. Also, the whole thing literally took 10 minutes from the store to their death. Wow. What do I say? Got to keep your head on a swivel out there, folks. Touching, it said earlier that one of the suspects had a very extensive, criminal record. That's true, Touching. Yep. Yeah. Gerald says he had like 230 felonies. That's right. As I said to Cherie, because 229 just ain't quite enough. So I'm just glad that these people are in custody. Sounds like it's a pretty solid case. Good that these people are off the street. Anybody who's willing to kill some people over a truck or an engine or whatever it was deserves to be behind bars. Let's take another question. Tanya, this is a long one. Let me see here. What is something important that we can do as civilians to help a person with a missing loved one or just a missing person, period? I share posts on social media, but I feel like people get desensitized to them because there are so many, and so many are pretty far away from my rural homestead. Thank you for doing your podcast. I know that helps keep the names out there. Tanya, I think what we are doing with Unfound on the ground is probably, even though I know that it's for premium Patreon members, although they eventually become free. In fact, the first 2 are now free right here on the YouTube channel. It's probably a good place to start, Tanya, listening to those, because it is a class being run by Eric in which we're trying to go from one point to the next point to the next point of how to get involved in missing persons cases. What you can do on top of posting flyers, how you can maybe subscribe to a database, maybe get better at doing searches, get better at finding people to talk to. I'll give you a perfect example that just happened within the last few days. Don't want to get into the disappearance right at this point, but I'm going to do the interview tomorrow. Next Friday, we'll be covering a disappearance that happened in 2001. And the woman that I am going to be interviewing is the sister of the guy who disappeared. And just by us talking and her telling me some of the things she's done, I was able to go into one of the databases that we use for Unfound and find the phone number of a woman who was there the night her brother disappeared, was in the house when it happened. And her sister, the sister had not talked to this woman, had totally lost contact with her over the last 19 years. Didn't know where she was, didn't know anything. And here I was able to provide a phone number, and she was able to call this woman, and they were able to talk. Now, it may be that this woman had something to do with the disappearance. When we cover the disappearance, it'll be up to you to determine that. But just something like that can go a long way. Now, how do you get to that point? Well, it takes some experience, because sometimes these databases aren't accurate. One database says one thing, another database says something else. They could be totally wrong, especially when it comes to phone numbers. But honing your searching skills and maybe having a subscription to some sort of good database, and maybe having a subscription to like newspapers.com can go a long way. It really can. Once again, though, having the subscription isn't enough. Being able to go through the databases and know what you're looking for and be able to tell if, this search isn't quite working and you have to tweak the names a little bit or dates and things. It takes some time, but that's something that's popped up, at least in these first few Unfound on the Grounds that Erika's done. And the other thing I think when it comes to, and this also just happened recently, is that learning how to approach these families and not sound like you're just pumping them for information. I had this recently where a person in California contacted me about a disappearance. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but a disappearance that Unfound covered, I'm just going to say within the last 2 years. And this person said they live in the area, they might know some things and everything. So I passed the information along to the guest for that episode. And I told her, here's this person's information. Be very careful. This person may just saying they know things, but it very well may be that they just want to pump you for information just so they can feel important and get the inside info on this disappearance, which a lot of people want to do. And those people are not helpful. And there's a lot of them. There's just people who want to know stuff so they can feel superior to everybody else. So they can take that information, go to web sleuths, and act like a know-it-all. And kind of after this guest talked to this person who contacted me, this guest got back to me and she goes, yeah, I think this person's just trying to pump me for information. And that happens a lot. So if you're going to contact a family, don't do that. Don't ask them. You ask them, what do you need? What can I do for you? Don't ask them, well, I'd like more details on the disappearance because la, 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 la. Don't do that. Don't do that because they don't know you. They don't know what your motivation is. For all they know, you could be somebody involved in the disappearance for all they know. So it's not just about wanting to help. It's about approaching them in the right way and being of service to them. That is harder to do, I think, for people than actually learning how to use a database, use newspapers.com, etc. My experience. It's easy. At this point, it's easier for me and Emily and Cherie and Heather and Carrie and Eric and Natasha, who have talked to a lot of people over the last few years. Of course, Natasha's fairly new, but because we have a track record now, anybody can go to Unfound and see what we do. Whereas for your average person that doesn't have a podcast, doesn't have a track record, you have to build trust. You have to. Whereas the trust that has been built with Unfound, everybody can just go to the program and hear what we do. So they maybe feel like they know us before they even talk to us. So you have to keep that in mind. So don't be one of those people who is just pumping them for information. You say, well, what do you need? Where are some holes in the disappearance? Maybe I can do something. Something like that. And you just I know you don't know me. Here's who I am. You can check me out here and build trust with them. And you have to go from there. Once again, and then you can start using those technical tools that we are covering in Unfound on the Ground, being led by Eric Grabowski. So that's my answer, Tanya. There you go. Some of you, yes, only 15 convictions. Logan says she just passed Kelmar's on Sheer Road, right across the street from Myers Pickle Farm. I know exactly where that is. My brother went to first grade there in 95, and he was last ever. I knew it was like, what did I say, 1995? Wow, that's crazy. I was living there when I was living right across the street, Logan, when they shut it down. I was there, so I got that. You're right. Okay. Heather, make sure flyers have been real pictures. So many have women with tons of makeup on or filters. I wouldn't be able to identify so many if I was right in front of them. That's another good one, Heather. When it comes to flyers, keep them as simple as possible. Lorenzo, my dad also lived in Leechburg. Anthony DiLorenzo passed away in 92 from a swimming pool accident. Maybe you remember. I don't remember that. I'm sorry for your loss, Logan, but I don't remember that. Just don't remember that. But it's weird. DiLorenzo. Not a last name that I remember from the Leechburg area. But welcome from Leechburg. That's crazy. It's crazy. You'll have to tell me a little bit more about that, Logan. So you still live there in Leechburg? Like I said, I haven't lived there since 1998. My parents haven't lived there since late 2004. Angela, how do Patreon members find Unfound on the ground? I haven't been able to hear it. Well, Angela, you're going to first have to remind me if you are a premium Patreon member. And if you are, then the links are on patreon.com if you can access them at the premium level. The first two are for free now on the YouTube channel. So you'll be able to go through all of Unfound's videos and find the two first Unfound on the grounds, Angela, if you've missed them. The third one has already been done. I expect it will be out for free within the next couple weeks as Erika prepares for number 4. Cherie and I were talking about this. Angela is a premium member. Sorry I've missed them, Angela, but the first two are for free. The third one will be for free. Like I said, probably within the next couple weeks. I'm sorry that you haven't been able to catch them live when they came out. But I talked to Natasha about making those available on an unlisted link on YouTube. I don't know if she's done that yet. Of course, she has a lot of other things to do. But the first two, if you've missed them, Angela, are on YouTube for free right now if you go through all of the videos for Unfound. The third one's not out yet, but it was done a couple weeks ago. Or was that last Monday? Maybe last Monday. Let's move on to this. Cherie and I were talking about this. Maybe some of you have seen this. Dr. Arpad Vass, V-A-S-S or Vass. I'm just going to call him Vass, V-A-S-S. He has allegedly invented a device that can sense DNA in the dirt. And what was funny is I had just read something about this guy. And I think I had read something about him a while ago, but just recently I read something about him again. And then within an hour, Cherie sent me an article, some different article about the same guy. And maybe some of you have seen, there's a lot of claims going that he's invented this device that can sense DNA in the dirt. And it's going to be revolutionary in finding missing people or remains that are in the ground. I'm here to tell you, once again, my opinion, I'm not a scientist. It all sounds like crap to me. And once again, I'm not a scientist. I haven't taken chemistry or biology since high school. But this sounds like he is a snake oil salesman. Even though he has, I guess, some impressive credentials from reliable universities. But if you've seen anything like this, and I know that there are at least a couple families out there who are claiming he's a godsend and everything, but no bones have been found. His device have not found any remains in the ground. And as far as his device sensing DNA in the dirt, and then they scoop it up and send it to a laboratory. There is no confirmation that any of that, the dirt, anything else that was sent to a laboratory has ever tested positive for a missing person's DNA. To me, even though I'm not a scientist, the reason I think people should doubt him is because how do I want to put this? No reputable scientist would name a device the Inquisitor. That's not what real scientists do. That sounds like a marketing gimmick to me. That sounds like something that you would see on late night TV. Buy the Inquisitor at the now low price of $19.99. If you buy right now, you can get two. Buy one, get the other for free. It's the Inquisitor. That's what it sounds like to me. Once again, I'm not a scientist. And you know me, I'm a little bit of a cynic. You know my attitudes toward dogs. You know my attitudes toward many private investigators. And frankly, that even more backs up what I think, because I know how many scam artists there are in this community. They take advantage of desperate people, including many of my guests who have been on the program who have been fooled, unfortunately, more than once. Right, Heather. But wait, there's more. Right. That's what it sounds like to me. And I realize it sounds like, and I even was reading an article that was debunking this. It's kind of like dowsing. And maybe some of you know what that is. People who hold these like rods and they're walking along there. It's allegedly, this is how you can find water, walking along, and then all of a sudden the rod will point down toward the ground, and that's where the water is. It's superstition. It's pseudoscience. It's like witches, like, the Salem witch trials, stuff like that, stuff that's just made up. And so anybody that's watching this, whether it's tonight or somewhere down the road, any families or friends of families that have missing loved ones, stay away from this guy. Stay away. Stay away, stay away, stay away. I don't know. Once again, it seems like he has a scientific degree. And it's just hard to understand, but that may be the reason that so many people believe him. I've read a couple articles where people are singing his praises, but there are way more articles saying that what he is talking about is complete BS. And so I'm going to counsel. I'm not going to go out there and blast or anything, but I will tell any of the guests who have been on the program, any that I run into, I'm going to be counseling them to stay away from this guy. Period. Don't even let him do anything for free. And this is one of those things like psychics. Well, they're working for free, and what does it hurt? Well, it doesn't matter if they're working for free or charging $10,000. It's the thought that causes the problem, not necessarily the money. Because as soon as the psychic says, well, I sense that your missing loved one is near a stream and there is a red barn within a half mile of the stream, they're going to go all over the country looking for that exact setup. And we know there are many. Sending people all over the country on wild goose chases. Well, even if they do it for free, this is wasted time. Not only on top of the fact, as I've talked about before, that because of the tough position that law enforcement is in, and because people are so desperate to find their missing loved one, they then put pressure on law enforcement to follow what the psychic says. And law enforcement doesn't want to be put in a situation where even though they do, where they are just outright saying, no, we're not going to do that. So then they have to get involved, at least some of them. Even more time wasted. So it's not even the cost. It is the false hope. It is taking advantage of people thinking that they have special like superpowers, like Doctor Strange from the Marvel movies and comic books and things. And there's no proof that any of this works. So that's why I tell my guests, I don't even care if a psychic says they're going to do it for free. Don't do it, because you're never going to forget what that psychic says, and it's going to get in your head. And you don't need people like that in your head. So this Dr. Arpad Vass, it sounds like that. In fact, I have it written here. It seems like it's one of those situations where heads I win, tails you lose. And when I wrote it here, it seems like this thing is never wrong. If soil is dug up and nothing is found, he can say, well, the body was here. And if the soil is dug up and something is found, oh, wow, it works. You see, that is the first sign that it's a scam, where the thing can never be wrong. No matter what the result is, the thing's right. It's never, well, we made a mistake. Oh, we need to recalibrate this thing. Nope. So, the problem is no remains have ever been found by Dr. Arpad Vass. Before we start crowning him some savior, how about we let him, succeed a little bit? Once again, it should be obvious. When scientist starts naming his own device before it has even worked, the Inquisitor, I mean, who really would come up with the name the Inquisitor unless if it was some kind of scam? Valerie says, do you remember the old Wet and Wild water park? I do. On Las Vegas Boulevard. I do remember that, Valerie, in Las Vegas. Yeah, not there anymore. Sheree, I want to know how many of you thought I was a scientist before I gave my disclaimer. Okay. Huh. Joyce says, what a farce. There will be some who will buy into it. There certainly will, Joyce. You can find a couple articles where people saying, yeah, he's absolutely right. He found my missing loved one's DNA in 5 different locations. No, he didn't. His device said there was DNA in 5 locations. That doesn't mean there was anything there. So true, Joyce. Heather, I just don't think many people know how often this happens. I didn't realize until Gannon's case, and so many people popped up with videos of where he was. Not one said in Florida. Yep. Sheree, if it worked, it would be solving murders left and right. Right. Yeah. So once again, to spell this out, Dr. Arpad, Arpad, and his last name is Vass or Vass, Vass. You can look him up. You make a decision for yourself, but I think I've been fairly clear on my opinion of him. Let me answer another question. Amy, are you in here? Maybe, maybe not. Do you enjoy caffeinated beverages? If not, what's your favorite drink to quench your thirst in humid Florida other than water? All of you should know that I'm not a coffee drinker. Why that is, I don't know. I have had coffee a few times in my life, but I've always found it to be very bitter. And, the kind of caffeinated beverages that I like, for example, when you could go to Starbucks, I like the really sweet, like caramel frappuccinos and things that don't taste like regular coffee at all. That's me. Whereas straight coffee, like black or with just some cream or however, people drink it a little more standard, can't drink it. Just can't drink it. It had sugar. Yeah. But I'm not, like I said, I'm not a regular coffee drinker. I guess frappuccinos and mochachinos and things that are those considered coffee? I don't even know. But at that point, with all the whipped cream and caramel in it and everything, does it really continue to be coffee or just some sugary drink? Where is that fine line? I don't know. But I do drink soda, or Logan will tell you from Western Pennsylvania, when we called it pop. But I haven't lived there long enough now to say that it's soda. Just about anything. I hate Dr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper is nasty. But as long as it's not Diet Coke, can't drink that. It just has to be Coke or Sprite or root beer or, the regular stuff. I love those machines that they have at some fast food places now where you can hit all the different buttons and mix it and everything. It's just so fantastic. I mean, I just blew my mind. So I like that, but I don't drink a lot of that. If you were to look in my refrigerator right now, here's what you would find. You would find unsweetened iced tea from Publix brand. You would find orange juice. You would find chocolate milk. And you would find water. And I got some Gatorade simply because I'm going to be disc golfing this weekend. That's what you would find. And I do have some beer in there, but only for when my brother comes over. I don't drink alcohol. None. Zero. I haven't had a sip of alcohol since I went to a wine tasting thing in about 2005. Wine is nasty. And I haven't had a beer since 2001, maybe. I've never been drunk, never had a buzz. In the 90s, went out a couple times with my friends, but just never got into it. I was always doing too much driving. Back when I turned 21, I was drag racing. I'd love to go cruising around and meet up with friends, and I'd drive half hour, 45 minutes. I was always driving too much to ever think about drinking. So I think that's what kept me away from it. And, it's one of those things where my parents never talked to me about drinking or drugs or sex or anything like that. So just kind of figured it out on my own. And so I just never got into that stuff, which makes me maybe a little bit of a square, and I can live with that. But as far as caffeinated, I guess I just have to say iced tea, usually unsweetened iced tea, none of this sweet tea that they have down here in the South, just unsweetened tea. Sweetened tea is like too sweet. And soda of various kinds, as long as it's not, was it Mr. Pibb or Dr. Pepper? But that's what I have in my refrigerator right now. I just told you. So fairly uninteresting in that category. Heather says he loves to tell me I drink too much Mountain Dew. Who says that? Do I say that, Heather? Drink of choice, tab. No tab. No tab. No Dr. Thunder. Gerald, I don't even know what that is. So I just don't get very adventurous when it comes to drinking. I can remember way back in the day. See, when I turned 21 in 1991, the big drinks back then were like Long Island iced teas. Remember those? That was kind of the in things in the early 90s. I tried those. I don't even remember what they taste like. Just not into it. It's not. So I don't know. It's real weird because my brothers and my sister have beers and cocktail drinks and everything, but my biological mother was a strict non-drinker. So I'm very much like her. Jasmine says, unsweet tea, that is a no. Heather says, you have yelled at me more than once about Mountain Dew? I don't remember that. Heather. Unsweetened tea, my favorite too. Me too, Cherie. Walmart's version of Dr. Pepper, Dr. Thunder. I don't know that. I love Mountain Dew. I do love Mountain Dew, and I heard, there was all those urban legends back in the day about Mountain Dew and how it affected men, but Angela, you probably don't like mayonnaise tomato sandwiches. I love Angela. I am a Hellman's guy. I grew up in a Miracle Whip house growing up, but I am a Hellman's person. We know that you're either Hellman's or Miracle Whip. I'm a Hellman's guy. Has more taste to it, in my opinion. Tomato sandwiches. My grandmother Emma used to make me tomato sandwiches. Love them. I love tomatoes. Don't eat tomato soup, but I love tomatoes. Tomato soup is nasty. So I hope that, Amy, answers your beverage question. This weekend, I'll have water and I'll have Gatorade out on the disc golf course. Let's get to something else. Jody Huisentruit, because I have a great social life, I was home and in bed very early on Saturday night, but her disappearance played again on 48 Hours. And I exchanged some messages with Caroline Lowe, who I think a lot of you know that I know her. She was on the program way back in 2017, although we have never officially covered Jody's disappearance in depth. Maybe we should think about doing that this year. Her 25th anniversary, the 25th anniversary of her disappearance passed in June. But if you haven't, you should go and check out the findjody.com podcast. There are 4 episodes now. I think they're pretty good. A little bit different type of podcast than what we do, but I think it's good. I think that they are covering a lot of the issues of Jody's disappearance in depth. And I found that the third episodes, there's 4. The third one was especially good, but I, of course, recommend that you listen to all of them. The 4th one just came out within the last week or something like that, but I've listened to all 4. And like I said, Caroline and I have exchanged a couple emails or messages on Messenger regarding that, and I've given a couple of my opinions on it. So what continues to, I think I can say that, so I'm not going to get into everything that Caroline and I have said because it was kind of a private conversation, and I haven't even told her this yet, but what's a little confusing to me is that for a woman, Jody, who was known by so many people because she was a reporter, because she was on TV, it's kind of weird, I think, that after 25 years, that there are only 2 or 3 suspects that people continue to talk about. Of course, that one being John Van Cise, the other one being Tony Jackson, and then the other one being Dustin Honkin, who was just executed. We're here in Florida. Was it here in Florida? I think it was. For some murders that he committed, but he is, in some circles, been as a rumor, as a theory, connected to Jody's disappearance as well, because he was in Iowa at the time. I got to tell you, for a woman, a young woman, a reporter, attractive, out about in Mason City, going to different events, getting to know people, and everything else, 2 or 3 suspects doesn't sound like enough to me. And I continue to believe that it's neither John Van Cise or Tony Jackson. Even though they've gotten a lot of attention, John Van Cise since virtually the beginning, and then Tony Jackson a few years later when Caroline Lowe got involved, she saw this possible connection being that she was from the Minneapolis area and Tony Jackson had committed some rapes there, and they found out that at the time of Jody's disappearance, he lived in Mason City, Iowa. Is that a coincidence? Does it mean something? But I continue to say that like I said, for a woman who everybody knew, 2 or 3 suspects doesn't sound like enough. Whereas you look at not many, but at least a few of Unfound's disappearances, we have quite a few where there are more 2 or 3 suspects. And these people were not on TV all the time. They were just, I guess you would call, regular people. So, not sure what to make of it. I think that the suspect Maybe the suspect is known to police and they just can't release the name. It's somebody else. Or I can't help but thinking this is still a suspect that just hasn't been on anybody's radar yet. I can't help but think that. It's kind of like the original Night Stalker. The guy who ended up raping all those women and murdering those couples and people, and Janelle Cruz, etc., was never on anybody's radar. I kind of think that's what's going on with Jodi Huisentruit's case. I think that this is a situation. I'm not saying she was killed by a serial killer. What I'm saying is I think that this is done by somebody who was way under the radar. Might have been somebody the police talked to at one time, but has kind of been forgotten. Just didn't raise suspicions. This is, I think, where I am with Jodi Huisentruit's disappearance all these years later. That's where I am. Could be totally wrong, but it just seems weird to me that a woman who was known by so many people and they only can name 2 or 3 suspects. She certainly had more men, let's just say, around her besides John Van Cise who wanted to get her attention. No doubt in my mind about that. So, but I thought that 48 Hours did a decent job given the medium, given they have to get it all done in like an hour or whatever it was, 43 minutes, 44 minutes without commercials. So, and I think they do a good job at findjodi.com. It would be nice if there were more websites like that for disappearances out there. Miracle with vitamin water, that's where it's at. Brent, I've had vitamin water. Did not really stick out to me that much, Brent. I can't say that I didn't like it, but I've had it a few times, but not recently. Angela, Dukes. I don't know what Dukes is, Angela. You will have to tell me. So that was Jodi Huisentruit. I got to watch it on Saturday night. I had a couple back and forths with Caroline Lowe about it. I have to put that maybe on my list of things to do. Maybe we should do an entire in-depth episode on her disappearance. Like I said, she was on in 2017, but we talked about Jacob Wetterling's disappearance, which I think it was still unsolved at that point. And then we also talked about Jodi's case, but it wasn't really in depth. Let's move on to this. Laura, have you had a chance to see the comet from your great vantage point? I've not seen the comet. I don't know if I would even know where to look. I've read about it, but I don't even know where to look for it in the night sky. So I should probably take more interest in that. I do. You know what I do remember? I do remember, was it Halley's Comet? It's like every 76 years, right? That it comes by. The last time it came by, I remember seeing that. And there was some other comet. Was it the Hale-Bopp or whatever? Was it the one where all those people ended up committing suicide? I think I saw that one too. But I have not. What is this new one called? Neowise or something like that? Have not looked for it. Frankly, it's been a little cloudy. We've had some nice days, but the night's fairly cloudy around here. But maybe I need to check up on that just to see, Laura. Maybe. But I know it's going on. Angela Mayonnaise, Duke's Mayonnaise. Can't say I've ever heard of it, Angela. Can't say. Mandy says, Duke's Mayo is what I used to. No sugar added, but tastes good, though, too. Okay. Laura, just under and to the west of the Big Dipper. You just need binoculars, really. Well, I know I can see the Big Dipper. I've seen it out here. I will check after the show is done tonight. And Heather says, today is the end of the world. Speaking of comets. Yeah, that whole thing. Yeah, we're all still here. All we need are clear skies. Yeah. Being that, and we'll be, of course, before the end of the show, I'm going to be covering Friday's episode, but we're going to Alaska for the third time this Friday, which I think is interesting because Alaska does not have a lot of people in it, but this will be our third time. And it did cause me to look at all the states in our union and figure out which ones Unfound has not visited yet. We haven't covered any disappearances in these particular states. And I'm going to read them to you. And it does seem that it seems like we have something against states in the Northeast. I don't know what it is, but you'll see here in a second. Even though we've covered about 175 disappearances, we've not yet covered a disappearance in Vermont. We've not yet covered a disappearance in South Dakota. We have in North Dakota with Donna Mikolenko. Of course, Dr. Eric Grabowski way back in 2017 was the guest, but not one in South Dakota. Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Delaware, Maine, Maryland, and Hawaii. Why we are having trouble? In fact, I even brought this up to Emily today, and she goes, "It's not like we're not trying." She's right. But those are the states: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we've gone to 40 states, and there are still 10 that we haven't covered yet. We haven't gone to those states yet. So I had made the point, I think we may need to make a concerted effort to get to those states somehow. And in fact, off the top of my head, I don't even know if we even ever had any disappearances from those states on the board and then things fell through. Just don't know, can't remember. My memory's good, but not that good. It seems to me that at some point I did talk to somebody about a disappearance in Maryland or Delaware. But those other states, just nothing really rings a bell. I know none in Hawaii. I've ever talked to anybody about disappearances in Hawaii. So I don't know. I don't know what it is about the Northeast, all those states, Vermont, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Delaware, but Maine. We've covered, a couple in New Jersey. We've covered quite a few in New York, Pennsylvania, but after that Northeast corner, I don't know what it is. We've not covered any disappearances, of course, in District of Columbia yet. None in Puerto Rico, but of the states, we have 10 that are still outstanding. We need to do, I think, a better job, and that starts with me. Thought you might find that interesting, being that we're going to Alaska for the third time, and that's, I think, the least populated state. But here we are at number 3. But on the other hand, it may have something to do with the fact that Alaska has the most disappearances per capita. That probably has something to do with it. Susan says Brianna Maitland in Vermont. I'm familiar with that disappearance, Susan. Yes, that is not one that we've done yet. Gerald says, only one I know in Hawaii is a guy who departed on his boat, headed to San Diego from Hawaii, and disappeared at sea. That would be tough. That would be a tough one to cover anyway, Gerald. And of course, automatically everybody's going to think, well, kind of capsized. It's probably. But I know regular disappearances happen, or, your average disappearance, person disappearing, doesn't have to be going out onto the ocean in Hawaii for disappearances to happen there. I'm sure they have, just like we covered in other cases. Guy gets up in the morning, and he says, yep, my wife just disappeared. I don't know where she went. I'm sure that happens in Hawaii too. Touching says, Ed, do you know if anyone is still looking for the victims of Israel Keys? No. Touching, I'm going to guess probably not. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that they've identified all of his victims. Of course, we know that he was a very unique killer. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that they have all that figured out. But I also I have to say, on the other hand, I think that the exploits of Israel Keys have probably been overblown. Even though everybody talks about how tricky he was and going places and stashing, we have to remember how he got caught. And kind of in my opinion, puts a hole in this idea that he was some, tricky guy, some, evil mastermind like you would find in a James Bond movie. He wasn't. Whereas the original Night Stalker, the only reason he got caught was because technology caught up with him. Had DNA never become a thing, if it wasn't a thing, that guy would still be walking the streets. Certainly not the case with Israel Keys. He got caught from being sloppy. Whereas the original Night Stalker, whose name Joseph D'Angelo, I think was his name. I don't have it written down here. But he got caught because technology caught up to him. He was doing things when DNA could not identify a particular person yet. And then it helped that all of these 23andMe and Ancestry.com and all these companies got started. That's why he got caught. Not because he was sloppy, but because they finally figured out a new way to identify people. I don't think he could have ever predicted that when he was killing all those people and raping all those women. So when it comes to Israel Keys, I know that a lot of people are fascinated by him. I'm not much into serial killers. It's not really what I do, but I do not put him in that same category that a lot of people do. I think a lot of people are fascinated by that. I'm not. And I know some people have asked me, don't you think it's possible that he could have murdered Suzanne Lyle? I've had more than one person over the last couple of years ask me that. I've talked to Mary Lyle about that. She rejects it. And nobody knows Suzanne's disappearance better than she does. She rejects it. She says that they've looked into that and he was not there at that time. That's what she says. And she knows more about her daughter's disappearance than I do. So I know some people have even said, well, maybe, I know for a while people were thinking he killed Tara Grinstead and he did something to Jennifer Kesse. I mean, but also on the other hand, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that all of his victims have been identified. But I think that it's gotten to supervillain status. And I just don't think he deserves that because the way he got caught was not really that impressive. Angela, what did Keys do that was sloppy? Like I said, I'm not. I just remember that the last young woman that he killed. I know somebody's going to say, well, I know everything about it. It just seemed to me that he didn't have to get caught. He could have pulled off that murder in a way to not get caught, but he did. He just went too far, got sloppy, overextended himself, didn't follow, I guess, the rules that he had set up for himself in all of these other murders that he committed. Heather says he killed at home. He used her credit card. Yes. Thank you, Heather. Now that's coming back to me. Heather, thank you for filling that part in. Yeah. Look, I mean, that's the first thing you don't do. No matter if you kill somebody or mug somebody or rob somebody or anything else, you don't use their credit card. That's the first easy way to get caught. And he did it. And that just tells me he's not as slick and smart and as intelligent as everybody made him out to be. My opinion. Of course, he's dead now, and we'll never know. We may never know how many murders he committed. Now that I'm looking at my list, I got to go get something. I'll be right back. I wanted to show this all to you. And I need to thank my assistant, Cherie, who got this for me. Of course, my birthday is coming up in a week and a half. But she got me this. Is this beautiful or what? This Unfound Podcast golf towel that I will be using. Not using it for practice, only using it for tournaments. I've already told her because it's so nice. Of course, it's in the Unfound colors, the accepted colors now of black and red. And my disc golf bag, my new one, is black and red. And I'll be wearing black and red from now on for all tournaments. For tournaments, I got some black and red shirts, and I have black pants that I wear, long pants for the tournaments. And so this is just this is one more thing, and I just need to thank her so much. It's really, I can tell. Trust me, I've gone through some golf towels in my day, and it's very high quality. And the stitching and everything is just great. And like I told her, it's like almost too nice to use, but I will. And there you go. The Unfound Podcast disc golf towel. And what happens is, see this little clasp or whatever you want to call this up here. I can clip this onto my bag or onto the cart that I use usually. And so that'll just hang there. Of course, I get my discs and it'll just hanging there like this. And you can wipe the discs off because they do get dirty if they land in the dirt or if it's raining or, some of this plastic, when it gets hot out, it's kind of what you would call sweats. So they can get a little slick. So you need a towel out there. And Cherie, I want to just publicly thank you for this. Very thoughtful. Thank you. And like I think I talked about last week, a listener got me a box of snacks that are fantastic. I'm getting through most of them. So some very early birthday gifts. And this was a total, this towel was a total surprise to me. It showed up in my mailbox. It must have been last week. I was like, what is this? Opened it up and it had the name on it. And then I was reminded that Cherie did ask me for my address a few weeks ago. So Cherie, thank you so much. Very nice. Thank you. And once again, my birthday is coming up August 1st. And I'm going to be the big I don't want to say it yet. The big can't believe it. Just cannot believe it. Where has the time gone? And in fact, what I'm going to start doing on Saturday is I'm going to count down for each day of the week. I'm going to do the top because there's 7 days in a week. I'm going to do the top 7 moments of my life to this point. I'm going to keep them PG, by the way. Now you have to remember that since I'm single, I don't have any kids. I can't say, well, when I got married or when my son or daughter was born, because I don't have any. So these are going to just be other things. They aren't going to probably be as predictable as maybe somebody who has children and has been married, which they would, of course, surely have to put on the list. So I've already typed out the list, and I know what those top 7 moments are, and I'm going to start them. I haven't decided Saturday or Sunday. Maybe I'll start them Sunday, and then the last one will be on my birthday, August 1st, next Saturday. And on that topic, it just came to me, Cherie. Cool idea. It just came to me. Thought it might be cool. And maybe I'm just going to do it. And I'm not going to do it in the group or on the page. I'm going to do it on my private Edward Densel page. And I think, people who have known me way back, going back to Gilpin Elementary, as Logan brought up earlier in the conversation, Maybe some people won't be surprised by some of these, but maybe to people who have only known me, maybe since Unfound got started, or maybe just from my Las Vegas days and onward, I suppose at least a few of these moments will be a surprise, maybe points they don't even know about me. In fact, I'm sure all of you will find out some new things about me in this list. Of course, you found out tonight that I've dated a few women who are much older than I am. That's just the way it's gone. But, one interesting thing on that topic that, regarding my birthday and being, if you're into that, a Leo, is that even though I don't believe in that stuff, it is amazing that how many women who have been girlfriends of mine were also Leos. It's really weird. Dated a woman, birthday was August 5th. Longest relationship I've ever had was August 7th. She was born. The woman I was talking about earlier, who was 11 years older than I am, I think she was born August 11th or 12th, something like that. It's really weird. I don't know what it is, but Leos and Leos together, I don't know what it is. So it's more than just chance, I guess, is what I'm saying. Amanda, thank you for the super chat. I should have mentioned that, just slipped my mind. But Amanda, thank you for the super chat contribution this evening. And thank you for watching. I got all the questions, I think. I think I did. Let's make sure that nothing has come in since the program has been happening. Jill, I think you're in here. She asked me if I'm expecting any new cases from Canada. I was working on one until the person stopped returning my calls for whatever reason. So maybe something's going on with their life. I really don't know. But we were trying to cover another disappearance in British Columbia. I don't know what happened. Let me make sure that I'm not missing anything. I hate ending the show and then going to the questions and then saying, "Oh, I should have checked this during it." So, Neely asked me about the Tom Brown case. We're working on something, but I can't talk about it. When I can, I'll let you know. But I think that's about it. Let's just go to this Friday's episode. Once again, we're going to Alaska. And actually, the title of the episode is North to Alaska. It's the disappearance of Jackie Bucky was his nickname, and that's how he will be referred to during the interview. Jackie Bucky Letney. He disappeared sometime it seems, in February 1987, so I would have been in 10th grade in Leechburg, at Leechburg High School, from Boundary, Alaska, allegedly. The episode, once again, is called North to Alaska, and his daughter, Connie Burrell, is the guest. But I also got to speak to one of Bucky's sisters. I'm going to tell you right now, probably of the 175 plus disappearances that Unfound has covered, this is probably the one with the least amount of information. As you can tell, we don't have a firm date. We don't even have a firm city. It is believed, we're pretty sure that it was in Alaska. We're just not totally sure what that city or town or outpost is. And that will be explained during the interview. In fact, I'm going to be posting some pictures of letters that Bucky sent to his daughters while he was in Alaska at the time. So you can read what he wrote and you can see the outside of the letters and how they were addressed. And I will put explanations as to why the addresses, the return address, etc., is a little confusing. I am going to be posting some pictures, like I said, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and I'm also going to be doing another video for this disappearance because, once again, I think that the locations are important so you can understand why there's a lot of this is a big question mark. So just not a lot of information. Of course, it's already a disappearance that's 33 years old. He was up there by himself, allegedly living with another guy. And this guy that he was living with says, oh yeah, Bucky took off. He was walking to the store and never came back. And unfortunately, we don't know this guy's name, or the family doesn't know this guy's name. They just have a nickname for him, and the guy's nickname was High Grade. Now, how you spell that? H-I-G-H space G-R-A-D-E or H-I-G-R-A-D-E. Nobody seems to know. But we're going to give it our best shot. I think Connie did a great interview, even though there wasn't a ton of information to talk about. Luckily, we have these letters and the envelopes that you can see. And you can see what he was writing about. It's not these aren't the easiest letters to read. Frankly, Bucky was not Ernest Hemingway. But you can try to read them for yourself. The other part about this disappearance, though, is Bucky did have some criminal charges against him. And he actually, when he went to Alaska, he got thrown in jail automatically from the first time around when he was there and got in trouble and kind of skipped out on a warrant, which is a big question. Why would he go back there if he knew that he skipped out on a warrant? That's unclear. But there are some rumors that you're going to hear about that maybe when he walked out of that place where he was living with High Grade, that he actually went back to Texas and never told his family about it. So we talk a little bit about that. And that was a lot of the conversation I had with his sister, her telling me what she had heard. So once again, the disappearance of Jackie Bucky Letney, Letney, sometime in February 1987. The reason we're picking out that particular date is because it seems that he disappeared right after the second letter was sent, which was in February of 1987. Allegedly, he disappeared from Boundary, Alaska. I'll be posting some information on that and see if that makes any sense to you. And the disappearance is called North to Alaska. And we're going there for the third time. I think the other two disappearances, of course, were J.L. Hamblin from October of last year. And the other one was Aaron Gilbert, the first Alaska disappearance that we covered in Anchorage. So that's all I got. Amanda, I was late, so I'll go back and listen, of course. Well, you do that, Amanda, when you have a chance. Cherie, we have a few any states we would like to cover. Please send suggestions to Emily. Yes, please. If you have any suggestions for disappearances in the Northeast states, let me read them again. I'll just read all 10. Vermont, South Dakota. Of course, that's not in the Northeast, but you know what I mean. Rhode Island, New Hampshire or Shire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Delaware, Maine, Maryland, and Hawaii. I would like to make it happen that within the next year, by the time before I turn 51 next year, I would like to cover a disappearance in every one of those 10 states. We're going to set that for a goal. So if you have any, it helps if you already have contact information for a family member of somebody who went missing in one of those states. That certainly moves along the process much quicker instead of just sending a list of disappearances from those states. So if you know anybody, if you can find anybody, if they have a Facebook page or a website or whatever, let us know. That's all I got for tonight. What a great show. The intro, got a 1-round tournament this weekend. Jacob Paddock-Weeks talked about the poll, talked about Erika, Lloyd, the second Unfound Now episode. Those 3 guys that were murdered near Lakeland. It seems the killers have been caught. Dr. Arpad Vass, who is a charlatan. Jody Huisentruit. We're going to Alaska for the 3rd time. I listed all those states where we have not covered disappearances yet. The disc golf towel that Cherie got me. It's beautiful. My birthday, not this Saturday, but next Saturday, August 1st. And I took a bunch of questions that were fantastic. And then, of course, the ending, as we always do, this Friday's disappearance. Once again, please be looking for some pictures and a video right here on the YouTube channel regarding the disappearance of Jackie Bucky Letney. That's all I got. Kathy says 170 disappearances we've covered. That sounds about right, Kathy. Thank you all for watching tonight. Once again, before you get off this video, please like it, give it the thumbs up. That helps us out. And you will hear me Friday. Thank you all. Good night.